Hi there, my name is Stuart Deacon. I'm here with Roger Chessell, who is kind enough to help me with my second photo walkthrough. Hello, Roger, how are you?
I'm fine, Stuart. Thank you very much.
You are technically not in my group anymore and are
That's
now eligible to help me out. So
right. I'm in Ron Clifford's group now.
that's right. And how's it going over there?
Very well. Yeah, very well. I'm enjoying it. There's a lot of new stuff over there, and it's going to be just what I want.
Right. Have you started a group yet, or is he waiting for?
No, the group's been
Oh,
running for
yours
some
is already
time.
going. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's the other one, I guess, that's waiting.
Yeah, that's right. It's 80 wheelers that's waiting.
Right. Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you, and I will get right down to it here. All right, can you see that? Is it coming up yet?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. So this is a shot that I meant to go take, which is unusual for me. But for the purposes of this video, this is what I did. So this is a spot in eastern Manitoba, right on the Ontario border. As you can see, you can start getting pretty high up. I'm from a really flat, lowland area, so getting anywhere higher than a tree line is exciting.
Sure.
So this is a place called Falcon Lake. There's lots of little islands here. You start getting into what's called Lake of the Woods, Ontario, which is probably the elite place to have a cottage. It's pretty
Right.
amazing out there. So my goal for this shot was to get some fall colors because everything is changing pretty rapidly around here. And this is a pretty good place to do it because we got some good aspen trees mixed in here with the coniferous ones and everything else. So I was trying to go here and get a sunset, which I did relatively all right with. Wasn't as glorious as I thought it would be, but up here, I'm not going to call it a mountain, but the inclines that you get are made up of all these rocks that are part of the Canadian Shield, which is a very rocky area, very elevated. So my goal here was to get a panoramic HDR photo. And this is a 65 megapixel shot made up of 5 different portrait orientation shots with 3 exposures per shot.
Wow.
So my process here was to take all of the images and lens correct them, pre-sharpen them in Lightroom, and then export them as TIFFs and process each panel in Photomatix using the same settings in Photomatix. Now, if you've ever used Photomatix, do you use Photomatix, Roger? You do every once in a while, right?
Yes, I do, but not very well.
Okay. Well, one nice little thing that they do is when you put in your settings, the next time you open Photomatix, it'll have the same settings you used last time.
Yep.
So you don't have to readjust everything. So it makes it very automated once you start doing more than one. So I've done that for all these with the exact same settings. Then straight from my Bridge program, or you could do it right from Lightroom, I think. I like to do it from Bridge. I don't know if this is a program you use.
No, I don't. I just use Lightroom.
Okay. Does this come with the cloud version?
Yes, it does.
Okay. This is what I use mostly for my organization of photos. I use Bridge to jump between my folders and go straight into Photoshop. So I used the Photoshop Photo Merge program, and this is what I came out with after cropping and just helping it align a little bit better. Now, the issue with this, because I've never had a lot of luck doing it that way, but I'll show you what I started out with here. Pretty dull looking.
Right, yes.
And what you get, you zoom way in here, unfortunately, you get a lot of overlapping. Can you see this section here where I have the same tree limb?
Yep, see it.
a lot of leaves doing the same thing.
Yep.
That creates problems. Same with stitching. I've got some breakups in the clouds here, little sharp things. So that's where most of the work in this photo lies. But let me just go through my little steps here. So what I've done first is I've actually done a little process I'm practicing and getting better at. And what I'm doing is I'm using the LAB mode in Photoshop to manipulate the colors a little bit better. So what I've done here is I've actually selectively grabbed the red channel and the green channel just in the Adobe RGB mode and changed the overlays to luminosity. So what that does is it effectively changes the luminosity of the color without actually changing the color.
Right.
Which is also something I'm getting to learn. So I've done that with these two to help lighten them up a little bit. And then what I can't show you right now is I've taken these, and if you go up to here, you go up to Image, Duplicate. This is my copy, Falcon Pano copy. If you duplicate merged layers only, what this does is it will open up a separate workspace in Photoshop here with just the top layer of everything that was below it. And this is what I used to change the color mode into LAB. And from here, what you can do, I've learned this little trick from a video I posted earlier. You can make a curves adjustment in LAB. Have you ever worked with LAB before?
No, I've had a look at it very briefly though, that's all.
It's a very wild way of adjusting colors. But if you open up your layer style here, just double click the curves layer, you get this little layer styles panel. If you actually unclick the luminosity channel, so you're not affecting the light levels, because I don't want to change those anymore. I just want to affect the colors. And you go up to the blending mode and put it to overlay. It's going to radically change your color scheme.
Okay. And
from here, you can really just play around with anything that you want. LAB is a really, really effective tool. So you have to be very careful with the amounts you're using. But after playing around with this for a bit, if you select both the layers, go up here, you can turn this into a smart object. It's just, I find the best way of moving photos around.
Yeah.
Once you've got the colors where you want, you convert it to a smart object. Should happen rather quickly, but this is a huge file. And essentially, I drag this back into my first workflow, and I stick it right here. And this, I mean, this doesn't look as radical as it did a minute ago, but this is what I was happy with. So this is what I pulled back in. This is just a fun, convoluted new way I'm trying to change my colors. Now, the next thing I've done here, this is called a bi-color user define. This is actually a filter through the Nik Effects filters. Do you use Nik Effects?
No, I've downloaded them, had a quick look, and not done anything with them.
Right. These are kind of like Topaz Labs. They have their own collection of different fun things you can do. There's Silver Effects is a black and white program. HDR Effects, just for fun. I like to use Color Effects Pro. This has a lot of different, a very wide variety of fun things you can do. This is basically their version of split toning in Lightroom. So what I've done is I've actually got a blue color at the top and a very reddish orange color at the bottom. And I've blended them in a way that I've kind of brought out the colors of the sky and warmed up the trees at the same time.
Okay.
So that was my main color change. The next thing I've done, I always make my little clone layers whenever I have to take something out. So this one, I've gone in here and I've helped get rid of some of these duplicating parts. Now, normally I go in here with just a spot healing brush or a clone stamp tool, and I just sort of fiddle around. Where you've got things like trees and branches, it's really easy to duplicate something without making it look obvious.
Yep.
So that is what I've done in this photo. I helped the clouds a little bit from being so choppy. Kind of blended them out a little. The next thing I did is a video I think that's been passed around the cohort a little while. It's a fun way of sharpening where you're not sharpening globally. You're only sharpening the fine edges of a picture. You can see that it's, oops, where am I? It's affecting the trees a little bit, but not too radically.
Yep.
And in turn, it should not be affecting open spaces like my sky here. Oh, it is a little bit, but not too bad. But I like using that better than just sharpening overall. It can get a little harsh in the sky when you go a little too crazy. And the last thing I did that I like to do is a little vignette that I like to do myself. I think you and I have talked about using the elliptical tool.
Yep.
To make vignettes before.
Yep.
I like to do it with the levels adjustment tool. You can do it with a curves or a saturation level if you want colors or anything like that. But it's just a quick way that I like to finish off a lot of pictures. And then the clone, I think I've got, this was just for, I think I've got a telephone pole down here. Yeah. Telephone pole and some wires I've just kind of zapped out that I saw last minute. So there you go. That is my first major panorama HDR, trying some new kind of color correction techniques. This was taken obviously on a tripod. The light was pretty good, so I probably could have done it handheld, but I don't trust lining things up properly with my eye.
No, I can agree with that.
I'd rather use a tripod or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any questions about that one?
No, there's a lot of techniques in there that I've never done before, and intrigues me to go out and now go and try it myself, of course. You can't learn it all in one go, as they say.
Absolutely.
I think you've done a really good job there. Am I supposed to give any criticism to it, or do you want to just...
No, you're not allowed to criticize my photos at all.
Okay.
No, absolutely. Go ahead. I have not put this up for any sort of critique, so I would love to.
You mentioned earlier, you mentioned just now that you didn't think it had attacked your white or your sky very much, but I've got a feeling from my screen here, there's a bit of noise up in the sky, but it might just be the way my screen is rendering.
Yeah, no, there is, and I think the way that I've done it, yeah, there is, because there's so many clouds in here.
Yeah, it's more in the blue than anywhere else, isn't it?
Yeah, and the way that I've done it, it normally avoids transitions like that, but because there's so many clouds, you're right. I think it's very minimal in here in the darker sections, but in the lighter ones, it is getting a little grungy, isn't it?
It is a little bit. It just struck me. You know what those things are like. You know, they pop out at you, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
The other question I have is, did you deliberately keep the rocks darker? You know, this set of rocks in the bottom left-hand corner?
I did, just because I didn't want them to be too distracting.
Right.
I mean, the main focus was to hopefully get these colors. That was supposed to be my focus here, was to get these colors. I mean, they hadn't changed as much as I'd liked. I would have loved a little more golden red in here, but
another week or so, and they probably would have changed quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, actually, would be a great time if I wasn't feeling so guilty. But I really just wanted to get whatever was left of the sunset, the glow on some of these trees, and I really didn't want the rocks to detract too much. No, but I needed some sort of foreground element.
Yes, I understand that.
The height.
I understand that totally. Because it's there. I particularly saw it when you were playing around with the blue colors, and the rocks turned blue as well. That's what drew my attention to them.
Yeah, and when I did do that process in the LAB, they did start coming out kind of blue, and I've actually brought them back to a granity looking gray.
Yeah, if I hadn't have seen that, I probably wouldn't have known to ask the question.
Right.
You know what it's like with us. We tend to look for everything these days.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And this is 100% an experiment for me. And to actually plan to go somewhere and take a photo is also something I'm not normally doing. I normally go out somewhere with the hopes that there's something great, but this panoramic idea is something I really wanted to try and get. And stitching was always an issue for me. So as long as the stitching part worked out, the rest of it was kind of going through the motions. So
I think you've done a good job.
Thank you very much.
I think it's really nice. The fact that you had so much to work with shows, because you had what, 9 by 3 or something like that. That's an awful lot of pixels to play around with, and that must have helped enormously.
I do. I have 5 panels going across in portrait orientation.
Yeah.
And I did 3 shots of each.
Yeah. 15 photos to manipulate and put together. It gave you an awful lot of stuff to work with.
It does, yeah. And it's pretty amazing. I'm not sure how it comes out on your screen, but when I look at this from far away, I mean, you can zoom all the way into the back here, and you can see these cottages all along the bank, and they're, for the most part, I can discern, you know, all the little boathouses.
Yeah, right.
And it's pretty amazing. I mean, if I was ever able to get something like this into a print,
I was going to say that you put that onto a big canvas screen, and it will look wonderful on the wall. It really, really will, because you'll be there. You'll stand in front of it looking for all sorts of things. Good job, really good job. Well done.
That's the fun thing I'd really like to get into, and I really wanted to nail this process down and see what is possible, because I've heard a lot of people. I watched Trey Radcliffe's presentation at the photo walk, and he was explaining about this shot in Dubai that he had done that was 95 photos he had put together in this thing, and you could zoom right into someone's car on the street and see what they were texting. I mean, it was unbelievably detailed.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
I may need a bigger computer for that, but
earn lots of money from being a master and you'll be fine.
There's always that. Where are you, Roger? I can't find you on my screen.
I've probably gone down. There you go.
There we are. Okay. Okay. Yep. I am actually going to stop the broadcast here, but I want to thank you very much for coming and helping me out. This is the end of my level 17. And hopefully we can get on to graduating soon.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you next set. Take care.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.